Hello and welcome to another Blender tutorial. We are going to be learning how to make liquid in Blender. This is our example of what we are going to be trying to make. It's the finished render, as you can see now. There, this is what it actually looks like in the Blender views. I have it in a room, and then I have a glass obstacle and a fluid inflow. So, let's get started. Open up Blender. Go ahead and click and get rid of the splash screen. I'm going to start the screencast. So that down here in the bottom left corner, you can see what buttons I'm pressing. Like I'm going to hit N, and it got rid of this. So, go ahead, hit X to delete, and hit Shift A, add mesh, and then do a UV sphere. We don't need this very high poly count, so you can probably half that. And then, yeah, 16, that sounds good. And make it relatively small. Hit the G button and raise it on the Z axis. And if it doesn't snap but it's moving around like this, hold down the middle mouse button and it will raise. After you have it raised, navigate to the front view by hitting numpad 1. Then hit Shift A, add mesh, and then do a circle. Now down here on the left corner, you'll see that it'll say fill type nothing. Click that and hit N gone. And if you go back up here by holding down the middle mouse button, you can orbit. If you go to the top, it fills it in, whereas if it was nothing, it doesn't. And triangle fan, if you hit tab, it shows you that it's got edges going into the middle. So I'm gonna get rid of that because now I want that options to come back. If it's an N-gon, it doesn't have those, and it seems like there's more things you can do with this. So I like N-gon. Go hit 1 again. Make sure you're in your front view. Hit tab, and you'll see all these vertices here. If this is grayed, make sure that it's on the lighter color. It's it almost looks like a square, but there's vertices on all 4 edges. And then hit A, and then A. So necessarily you don't have to have this on if you hit A. I was gonna have you select it with the B button like this, but you know that works too. Then hit scroll out a little bit, hit the E, and we're making the cup right now. So make it however big you would like the cup to be. And I'm also gonna hit the S button now, and then I'm going to hit the E, and then right click, and it will. If I move it up here, if I right click, it'll snap it back down here. So it puts it in the same original spot. Then hit the S, and that'll make it smaller, and you can kind of see from here to here. You don't want it way thick, but have it thick enough that when the physics isn't gonna go wacky on us, you want it a little bit. You want a little bit of depth to this cup. Then hit the E button, and you can kind of see through the cup. Go down here and click, and it comes through the cup at the bottom. That's okay, because we're just going to hit S and make it smaller. Our cup is pretty much done, so hit the tab button, and then hit smooth. And it doesn't really look that great, so we're going to come up to the modifier tab, hit add modifier, and subdivision surface. Let's hit under subdivisions, make it a view of 2 if your computer will handle it. If not, just leave it at 1, it doesn't really matter too much. And then go back in the hit tab to go in the edit mode. I'm going to show you, you can stay in edit mode, but I'm going to show you right here, we're going to get rid of that bad slope to the cup because we want to have the solid base at the bottom. So hit either you can click loop cut and slide over here, or you can hit the Control R button, and it'll show up this purple circle. Make sure that it is on the outside, not on the inside like this, but make sure it's on the outside. Click once and slide it down to the bottom. Not all the way, but most of the way. And then click. You can stay in edit mode because we're still going to do something, but I'm going to tab out to show you what it has done. It's made the cup go down and looks more real so far. But if you look on the inside, we have that problem on the inside too. So hit tab, and this is where it could get a little bit more difficult because you'll have to pay attention really carefully. Move your mouse in until the purple circle or line goes on the inside of the cup, and you'll be able to tell because the outside is a bigger circle whereas the inside is smaller. So click there, and then you're going to want to lower it. And for me, for some reason, when I go up, it wants to go down. So you might have to do the same. And if not, then just do it normal. You just have to play with it a little bit. And you should be able to hit, I'm also gonna hit Control R one more time, or hit this one more time, and then I'm gonna bring it to the top on the outside, just so that we can have that ridge on the top too. And that looks pretty good. So we have a basic cup. This is going to be our inflow. Now we need a domain. But first I think I'm going to, I'm going to add a domain so that we can play with the settings of the domain at the same time. So I'm going to hit Shift A, add mesh, and then go to cube. And for this cube, you don't want it too big because the computer has to calculate everything that's inside the cube. So the bigger the area of the cube is, the longer it is going to take to not only render this, but also, I think it's called caching. Each frame that the fluid has to move about. Because fluid is very hardware intensive part of this program, you want to keep this domain cube to the minimum if possible, because it'll eliminate a lot of stress by just making it go faster, and fast is good because time is money. No, I don't know, I'm just joking. So I'm going to go into wireframe mode by hitting the Z, and then I'm going to make sure that this is inside of it and this is inside of it. The light and the camera, I really don't care is inside of it. Just whatever is going to be interacting with the fluids. And then, because we're in the front view, I'm going to position this over here, because we're going to make the water spout this way. It gives it more dynamics if we have it more interesting. And it's still inside the cube, so that's good. Let's set up the cup first. So go ahead into the physics tab, and you may not have very much experience with this, I'm not sure, but it's the bouncy ball looking one, and click on it, and there's all these interesting things, and a lot of them are very nice. Actually, all of them are nice, but the one we're going to work with is fluid. So go ahead and click fluid, and then type. You can hit obstacle. Now I'm going to kind of explain some of these to you. A domain is what calculates the fluid. So that's what our box is going to be. The fluid could be this, but in our instance, it's not, because a fluid is something that you want to fall and have no more output. So I'll kind of show you. I'll show you the rest of these later on because it'll pertain more to this. But the reason why we do the obstacle here is because obstacles cause water to have to be diverted around it, and in this instance, this is just so big of an obstacle that the water gets stuck. So that's pretty much what we've created. So go ahead and right click on your sphere and hit fluid, and then when it says type none, click inflow. And as you can see, if you hold down, if you just let the mouse sit on it, it'll say object adds fluid to the simulation, whereas on outflow it says it removes. So an outflow is almost like a drain in a tub, where inflow is the faucet or the spray thing, whatever that is. But that's what those two do. And then we use what obstacle. Those two I haven't really used too much, so I'm not positive on them. But so we want to hit inflow because we want it to come in. This is the faucet, and I'm going to look down in this bottom left corner and see we want the water to go this way. So when I look over here, the axis that's on the bottom that is horizontal is the x-axis. And if I remember right, if it's going to the left, it's negative. So let's do negative 0.5. Let's just try that. Because I did a little earlier, I have a guesstimate of where it's going to be, and I'm pretty sure it's around that. If you have a higher, it'll shoot faster. Yeah, stuff like that. So now we're going to right click on the cube, it is a cube if we're not in wireframe mode, but the square in wireframe mode. And then hit fluid, type, domain. And for most of you, it will probably look more like this. I was playing with it earlier, and so it's kind of still saved my frames that I have, which is good and bad. It's bad for this tutorial, but good if I were still working on that. But as soon as I hit bake, it will redo all of that. So that's going to be good here in a minute. For me, I was able to get a final of 1,000, or not 1,000, 100, and a preview of 70. You can do whatever you would like to. I don't know the specs of your computer, so it's really hard to say what numbers to put in there. You're probably safe to leave them at whatever Blender puts it at for you. But for me, I'm going to put this one at 100, and this one at 7. Maybe I'm gonna go 60. Just because I want Blender to be fast. So I'm keeping the preview low. You can put this as low as you want, and it won't really affect anything other than right now you'll see it's going to be more blocky. Whereas if you hit the final, when you hit F12 and you actually render it, it will look more like water. I'm also going to try, if I remember right, it doesn't really change a lot, But if we come to fluid world and then click on viscosity presets, you can hit water. It doesn't really change a lot, so you don't have to do anything. But if you want it to look thicker, it probably is how much it flips up and makes more. This is pretty much how liquid it is. If you want it really thick, or water, which is really thin, you just pick those. And it pretty much changes this and that. That's all it changes. Next, most of this doesn't really. Oh, this actually does a little bit. You might want to know what this is. This you don't really need to know about. This it's pretty self-explanatory. It says remove air bubbles. So if you want air bubbles or not, you just click that on or off. This is when you're done rendering, or just after it's done baking is what it's called, when you make the water, when you tell the program, when you tell Blender to figure out where the water needs to go. This will tell it how smooth it goes. So I'm actually gonna set that to 5. I'm gonna set subdivisions to 2. Subdivisions and this pretty much the same thing. I don't know why they didn't just combine them, but I use them a little bit separately just so I have easier numbers. So I like easy numbers of 100, because then if I ever need to do calculations later on, it's just easier. And then fluid particles, you don't need to know anything about that. Alright, I don't even know about them. I don't ever use those. Let me click on our thing here. It looks good. That looks good. So, click on your domain again. It'll probably look like this. And hit bake. So, I can either stay with you or I can just pause it and come back, which is probably what I will do end up doing. But I'm going to kind of talk to you a little bit. As you can see, this, if you were to move this, you can see how far it's already done. And it looks like it's going to hit our cup in just about the right spot on mine. On yours it may be a little bit different. Looks like we got a little bit that came off, but I'm not worried about that teeny little bit, as it will cause no problems. So, yeah, it'll be a while. I'm going to pause this and then come back in just a little while to finish it. So, I'll see you in a minute. Well, I think it's done, so let's go ahead and take a look at our thing. So I'm going to start it at 0, hit Alt A, and watch it flow into my water, to my cup. It looks pretty good, so I'm going to actually pull this here, and I'm going to get out of that view. I'm going to get into rendered. Looks like we may have had a little bit of a problem right here, but I don't think we're gonna. I think if we go to solid and just make it a little bit bigger, we should be okay. Shouldn't affect anything inside. So that was an easy fix. So if you have anything that's popping out just a little bit, just hit the S button and size it up so that it all fits inside. So next, let's make this cup so that you can look through it and see what's going on. So I'm first going to change. I'm going to change this to cycles, just because I like to do it in cycles. It is a harder render, but this is what Blender is going to. So, if you don't know it, you will want to get to know it really quickly. And you see it looks nicer. I mean, it's not so harsh on the darks and lights. It's a beautiful render engine. So, let's get to the materials. Go to the materials tab, hit new. This one's not going to be a hard material, so we probably won't have to go in the node editor. We're just going to surface, instead of diffuse, I'm going to do an add. I'm going to have a shader. I'm going to do two shaders. One is going to be a diffuse. And you could probably do this with just a glossy, but I'm going to do it with diffuse and glossy. Not glossy. That's not what I want. Glass. Right there. You'd probably be okay with just the glass. In fact, you know, let's just do that. I'm going to do glass. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And if you know some of those glasses that shine, that don't shine so much through but are more blurry, it kind of has a weird texture sometimes. You can raise this and get that fuzzy effect too. See if you can see right here. It's pretty fuzzy, but I don't like it. So I want to be able to see my water, or whatever it is I'm going to put in there. And we're going to also right click on any part of the fluid. Probably right here would be your best bet. Right here, you're gambling whether you're going to get your cup or that. So right click there, hit new, and this one's also going to be a glass. But we're going to change the color to blue, just so that it's easier to see here. And this, now that you have done, baked this, you can just hit the right click on that, make sure that there's no materials over here, because that means you are selecting this ball. You want just the ball. Hit the M button and move to layer 2. Now you can't see that, and all you can see is your cup and your magical water. It's flowing out of space. And we're not even going to do anything with that. This is just a tutorial to show you what you could do. Actually, that's a pretty cool view right there. Kinda like that. Anyway, hit the hit the 7 button on your keypad, or numpad. Zoom out a little bit, and hit Shift A. Remember what we're creating. We are going for, let's see if I still have it open. And I don't. Let me open up a picture real quick, because I have it right here. Here we go. It's a picture of what we're shooting for. Oh, come on. So, this is what we're going for. We're going to put it in a room, and this light is just, it gives it that pleasant look to it. So, let's create the room. Hit Shift A. Oh, if you ever move your cursor out here, you click on accident or something, and you would like it back in the center, just hit Shift S and do cursor to center. Then hit Shift A, add mesh cube, enlarge it so that you have everything in it, and you probably can't see your camera. So hit Z and check to make sure your camera's in it. And in this render, I have it sitting right by a wall so you can see the nice shadow. And it makes it look pretty good. So I'm going to do that same thing, the same technique. I'm going to position, scale, grab, position, scale, until I get it right where I want it. After I do, I'm going to hit the 0 button on my numpad, and it's still out of position. So I'm going to move my camera up, rotate, grab, move out, move down. Just use the G, R, and S buttons to pretty much move the camera, move your room, so that it all fits just the way you want it to. You remember, you do not have to do it exactly how I do it. This is just how I do it. So, you don't even have to be following along. You could just be watching this if you really wanted to. I just did that part a little bit fast. I hope you all stayed with me a little bit. I'm going to go into the rendered view and see what I got going for me. That's pretty bright right there. I'm going to go into a solid, select it, and you can also just click and drag these. That's actually what I'm going to do right now. If you didn't want to drag that, you could hit G and middle mouse buttons do the same thing. But I'm going to hit F12 now. I think that looks pretty good. In fact, that looks a lot like this picture. It's almost identical. So, the only thing that's different is this is a higher resolution picture, and I will raise that right now so you can see how to do that. If you would like to save this to something or save a future picture that you have done, just go over here, or even a past picture that you've done. You just don't get very good renders. I show this at the end of each video so far, or not so far, but in the recent videos, just because. So if you ever forget, just come click on any of my videos really. Come to sampling, and then go right here. It says render and preview. I set mine to 500 and it gives me pretty good results. And then I like a 920 by 1080 pixel picture. That's a pretty high resolution picture. In fact, that's what most movie industries use for like 1080. That's what the standard is set for. This is actually higher because it's usually the X that's 1080. And this is like 720 usually. But I like it this way. This is a pretty high resolution picture. But I think it sets it at 50% when you want to actually do your render. So this is only what's half of 1920 and half of 1080. That's all it's rendering right now. If I were to raise that up, now it's 1920 by 1080, which is pretty nice. So I think that's the end of this tutorial. I'm going to hit F12. And, oh, one other thing. See how it's a little tiny box that's rendering? I'm going to hit escape. I found that where'd it go? Right here, under performance. The tiles, right here. The higher you have it, so if you can get a box that's about this big, it will render faster than if you have a box like this. That doesn't make sense to me, but, so, I will double that to 100, actually, I have it under 256, it's what I liked it, so I'm going to do 256, and I'm hit F12 now. You can see it makes it a lot bigger, and it somehow renders it faster. Maybe it's because it doesn't have to switch over to new squares as often, I don't know. But, that's just the end of this tutorial. I'm not gonna wait for this to render because last time it was a lot longer. Like, oh, that's cool. I've never noticed it had a remaining tab up here. So yeah, it says 17 minutes. So that's a little off because I don't think it'll take that long. But it's gonna take a while. So well, I hope to see you next time. I hope you enjoyed this liquid tutorial. Remember, you can add any materials to the glass and this, or even the room, and it would look. You could probably make it look a lot better. So have fun with your creations. Post on Google Plus under the hashtag Blender Know How to show all your creations to tell users all around the world that you know how to use Blender. And I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.